You know who was telling people about the COVID vaccines and the adverse events that were going to occur, right? You know who was doing that, right? You remember one of the first people that was talking about preventative medicine and how it's not being discussed. And you know, what else was I talking about? Oh yeah, how congenital diseases impact and influence pre-existing medical conditions, right? Because you had to get it from somewhere. And a lot of people getting their diseases, the disease of mindset from their family members in their social circles. You got all of these people around you who don't know jack shit about their health, right? But you take their advice over someone who's credible, who's educated in the field, and who's been doing it for years. But I get it. You need sensationalism in order to feel like it's worthwhile watching television, right? So what happens? What happens? And yeah, I'm doing dishes while I'm doing this live. What happens? People are the 6 variations of their social circles. You got a bunch of people around you who don't know anything, which makes you, if you got 5 friends around you right now who don't know anything, you the 6th person who don't know anything. You don't know anything. And there's a lot of people in the world who don't know anything. But leave it up to the social perception of what is a credible resource, right? And you know what people are going to go to? They're going to look for a person whose complexion doesn't look like theirs, right? And yeah, I'm going there with it because it doesn't get talked about, right? We don't talk about the separation and the cultural bias and the ethnic bias that we have within our own community and how it negatively, adversely impacts our ability to get care providers that come from our very own communities. So what happens? Our care providers, instead of them being interested in being care providers, they become interested in doing something else, like being an entertainer or doing something that, you know, only contributes to an aesthetic, to a physical aesthetic, not an internal aesthetic. And that needs to change. Nobody ever thinks that that is something that doesn't need to be spoken about, but it needs to be talked about. Your personal social bias towards what a healthcare provider looks like to you is part of the issue, right? But I digress. Let's get back to the issue at hand, right? All of these adverse effects that are occurring from the use of these non-vaccines, they don't even fit the medical criteria to be considered or legally defined as a vaccine. They're trial medications, right? These test medications, they don't have any long history. They have no backing, right? And you know what sells people on taking the vaccines? An excellent marketing and advertisement plan. That's all. That's it. And the public's perception and their indoctrination into being followers based on fear alone. Oh, you know, they're not gonna let me get a job because I don't have this shot. Well, imagine how many people lost their jobs, right? Because they decided to stand firm on their beliefs, on their philosophy, and it may be difficult, but you know what? It is definitely the safer option than waiting another 5, 10, or 15 years when a lot of these people are going to come to find out that their reproductive systems are no longer capable of being able to bear or produce genetically viable material. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about a prediction towards a reduction in population based on the American population's inability to reproduce healthy people, all right? And on top of that, you're going to continue to see a medical system and a healthcare system that advocates for enabling their patients to not take personal responsibility, to not be in charge of their own health, to not manage their pre-existing health conditions, right? And nobody's shutting down McDonald's. Nobody's shutting down Burger King. Nobody's shutting down Pizza Hut. Nobody's telling everybody else go take a fucking walk because your ass is unhealthy, your blood pressure high, your cholesterol too high, your blood sugar too high. Everything in this country that people suffer from is from an excess, not a deficiency. Isn't that interesting? That this country is one of the wealthiest nations in the world, and we suffer from diseases of excess more than we suffer from diseases of deficiency. Right? Now, we do have a lot of nutritional deficiencies, and that's also part of the problem, because those nutritional deficiencies lead to the onset and development and the maturization of opportunistic infections. And an opportunistic infection is anything that is permitted into the mind or the body when it's at its weakest state. So if you don't know what your weakest state is, it's time to get familiar. Because, ladies and gentlemen, tides are rising. I'm gonna just put it like that. Tides are rising. And y'all don't, a lot of people not gonna get it, but you know what? Y'all are more concerned about making money in this system that continues to use your manual labor, you selling your time for money, right? Is gonna continue to take advantage of you, and it's gonna continue to discriminate against you and put you deeper into public slavery. You're going to continue to volunteer yourself to the point where you're going to come to a place where later on in life you're going to be like, how did I get here? And you're going to only be able to blame yourself for the position that you're in. And this is not to chastise or criticize anybody. I'm making this and saying this simply and merely with the intent of it inspiring you to take better care of yourself. Because the public health care ain't doing it for the people. You know, we got more access to resources than ever before, regardless of your complexion, regardless of your financial status. But the people who invest more into their health now, they're saving more later.